Hi data lovers, my name is Angie and this is Insight Bites with Dexibit. Today we're talking about visitation and visitor management and how to forecast forward on these numbers. There's two very different situations where you need forecasts in a visitor attraction. The first is for strategic plans, for things like financial planning, long-term headcount planning, activity planning, etc. And the second is operationally for things like resource scheduling, whether that's staff rostering over the course of the week and assignment of where people will spend their time, or soft inventory like food and beverage. Depending on how far out your visitors make the decision to book and if they do that in advance, these projections are also useful for monitoring the balance of demand versus capacity against expected performance and then tweaking your marketing or operations to get that mix just right. So when it comes to forecasting, you've got three options: guess, grind, or AI. And by this, we mean the difference between guessing, which is like hazarding a guesstimation on what visitation might be. Say, I think we'll get 1.2 million visitors this year because that's about what we had last year. Versus grind is a bit like hacking it out in a spreadsheet with lots of complex equations to work out, say, where Easter last year was in relation to the school holidays for that week and whether the weather was unusual for that time of year and so on. While AI is using our machine learning models, which train on your historic visitation data and what's happening in and around your venue, on everything from marketing campaigns through to the weather, to provide very precise, down-to-the-hour predictions in a flash. Forecasting using machine learning means getting more accurate and granular predictions faster. The same is true for forecasting other metrics like revenue or attendance for activities like exhibitions. The factors that go into these forecast models will change depending on what you're wanting to predict and what time range you want to project for. But for the best results, you'll want to use a hybrid approach of your mind and the machines, curating that calendar of influences on your visitor behavior and adjusting your plan to reflect the nuances that you and your team might know that might not necessarily be evident in your data. Longer term, and particularly in a situation like COVID-19 where the future is a bit uncertain and the environment very changeable, these forecasts can feed into scenario simulation, over which we can then play with constraints like rolling shutdowns or travel restrictions or different demand curves. We always recommend having a best case, a worst case, and a most probable case scenario plan on hand, and reviewing these simulations at least quarterly, depending on how dramatically the world around you is changing. And that's a wrap on forecasting forward for operational planning and strategic planning, plus scenario planning. And we'll see you next time for another episode of Insight Bites, or check out Dexibit.com for more on visitor management and big data analytics for places people love.